Hey dreamers, Bryce here from Midnight Notion, singer, songwriter, musician, and a big fan of talkin' rock. Today I'd like to share with you a little story about how I wrote my hard rock opener, The Lone Wolf, and maybe, hopefully, give you some pointers on how you could turn your idea into a song. Cue the intro. My videos have a tendency to get a little bit long, so if you feel the need to skip ahead, go ahead and hit the timestamps in the description below. That'll allow you to skip ahead. But for those of you who are here for the entire thing, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love you. I respect you. Thanks for being here. This video is going to cover the idea, the purpose, which is a whole separate thing from the idea. I'm going to share some old demos of the song. I'm going to talk about how I recycled some old riffs and turned them into something new. I'm going to share my lyric writing process and then, of course, the end result. But before we get into it, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Why? Because this is a nose flute. That's why. Part 1, the idea. Most of my ideas come to me in the shower, which is highly inconvenient because you can't really bring a notepad in there and write it down. It's going to get all wet. You're not going to be able to read it. And you can't bring in an electronic device and record into that because it's going to get wet and be on all unusable or whatever. So you have to kind of just keep singing whatever comes to your mind over and over and over and then write it down later. The content of my lyrics usually has something to do with a frustration that I was experiencing in my life at the time. So this particular song comes from 2017, where I was really frustrated. I had all of these songs just sitting unreleased and I didn't have a band. I wanted to take Midnight Notion to the stage, but I just couldn't find any musicians to play with. The thing is I have a high bar for the type of people that I want to associate myself with, that being that they have to be respectable human beings. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but a lot of rockers, no offense, tend to be kind of douchey. That's not on, and it's not on any of you. Some of you are fine people, but there are a lot of jerks out there who are abusing women and drinking excessively and doing drugs. I don't want to have anything to do with that. I respect people and I don't drink. You don't have to not drink to be in my band, but I do need you to understand that like this is a professional thing and I want to take it seriously. So I was really having a hard time finding serious people to join this band. And then when I would find somebody good at playing their instrument, they'd be a terrible person. When I'd find a great person, they'd be terrible at playing. It just wasn't lining up and I was frustrated. I was also frustrated because I had rock and roll friends, people who were in the local scene here in Minneapolis, that were getting really amazing opportunities and they weren't telling me about it. They weren't sharing things. They weren't sharing contacts with me. They weren't hooking me up with people that they knew that played or people they knew that made music videos or this or this or this or this or this. I felt like I wasn't getting an opportunity, and I also felt like I had all of this gold that was sitting being unused, and I also felt like I couldn't get it out there because I didn't have the team. Blah, it builds up, it builds up, it builds up. I was frustrated. Aside from all that band stuff, I also felt like I was left out of the scene because of not drinking and being, a typical rocker, if you will. I don't have tattoos. I don't have earrings. I don't have a mohawk. I felt left out from the community, even though I never really started as part of the community. But I love rock and roll music, and I should be able to make rock and roll music without looking a certain way. And I wanted that to happen, but I felt cast out. I felt like I didn't fit. I was invisible. So I wanted to capture that feeling of being left out, being cast out, being invisible, and also the frustrations of not being able to play, but then also realizing, wait a second, I have all the skill, I have all the know-how, I can record at home, screw them, I'm going to do it myself, right? That was the starting point, and that is where the following voice memo came to. Listen to this. This is the 2017 voice memo from my phone of me singing this brand new idea, tentatively titled The Lone Wolf. Check it out. Mm. Guess I'm gonna do it by myself this time. I walk away standing tall, you'll see. It's not much, is it? There's not really a whole lot to it. But if you listen close, you can hear the intro hits. Da da da. And the first few lines of the chorus followed it through all the way to the end. Guess I'm gonna do it by myself this time. I walk away standing tall. The truth is, a voice memo like this can sit in my phone for years. And that's okay. There's no need to rush it.
You can't rush art.
If you've listened to the Somewhere in Dreamworld podcast, which is available here on YouTube or on iTunes, you'll note that I have sort of a history and a fascination with wolves. So despite the title kind of having not a great sound anymore, because the lone wolf typically gets used for some awful things, I did really like it back then, and I really felt like it fit the theme of this song, or at least the idea. I even considered naming an EP or an album The Lone Wolf just because I liked that concept. But I couldn't really bring it outside of this idea phase until I had a purpose for the song. And that purpose didn't come until the record got all kinds of screwed up. Part 2. This record sucks. In late 2017, I sent a demo of the entire record to a few friends and asked them for good, hard, honest feedback. I wanted them to not give me any sort of like, oh, it was good. I wanted them to really let me know what they thought of it. And while they all liked the music, the common recurring feedback piece was that my lyrics weren't really catching them the way that they had wished. And they were right. A lot of these songs were 10, 13 even years old, and I never really checked the lyrics. For a long time in my career, I didn't care much about lyrics. I thought they were always an afterthought to me. And so upon looking at my track list, I realized that some of the songs needed to be fixed up a bit, and some of them needed to go. Now, I always wanted to open the record with Only a Dream because it's an orchestral piece. It's supposed to set the scene, sort of make you feel like you're falling asleep, and then the record comes after that. I wanted to mimic what Metallica does with the Ecstasy of Gold. They play the Ecstasy of Gold over the speakers before they hit the stage, and then so when the crowd hears Ecstasy of Gold, they know that the band is coming. I wanted to have that similar feel. You set it up with an orchestral instrumental, and then boom, the band. But my second track, Prove Myself, doesn't really have that hard-hitting, punch-in-the-face sort of start to it, and so it felt like it needed some extra oomph. So I decided to write Intro, which is the second half of Only a Dream intro. I combined the two into one song. So it's half orchestral, half hard rock instrumental. And you get to hear the 2006 version of the hard rock half of Only a Dream intro now. Fun fact, the airplane sound effect at the end of that was because at the time I was calling this band Airport Weather, which is a really stupid name. I get it. I understand. That's why I changed it. Anyway, it's a pretty solid concept, right? It's got that bam, it's got a hard hit at the beginning. It's rockin' tune. It's in 10/4 almost all the way through. So we've got an odd time signature, but it's got a nice little bop to it. The problem is that it's playing for another minute and a half after about a 2.5, 3 minute instrumental. So we've got five, and then we got the opening to Prove Myself. And so that's an extended amount of time. We got like 5 minutes of record before you hear the first vocal line, and my listeners were getting bored. They weren't interested in this instrumental. So the intro got cut out, but then that created a domino effect because one, Prove Myself doesn't have that hard-hitting start, and two, the album was supposed to close with Only a Dream outro, which is a variation of the intro. And so I lose my closing track as well. But lucky you get to hear a demo version of the original closing track. Here's the instrumental Only a Dream outro that was supposed to bookend the record. Another fun fact, the alarm beeping at the end there are 12 alarm beeps to signify midnight, and they are to the tempo of the opening track of my next record, which you may or may not hear something about sometime soon. Wink, wink. But since the intro was gone and the outro was gone, the whole thing fell to ruin. The whole album fell apart. I couldn't end the same way because then my final track was going to be ending unresolved and my opening track wasn't going to have the same punch it needed. Everything went into chaos, and in the mess, in the hacking and slashing, Prove Myself got cut. So I needed a new intro, a new opener, something to bring us out of the orchestration and slap us in the face. Ta-da! We've got a purpose. Part 3, the purpose. Without intro or Prove Myself, I needed the following things. 1, a hard-hitting intro that hits right away and wakes up the listener. 2, lyrics that proudly display my self-confidence. I'm gonna prove myself, but not with the lyrics of Prove Myself. 3, time signature changes, interesting changes. Both intro and Prove Myself were full of time signature changes, so I wanted some of those. And finally, 4, it needed to be in E minor because the previous song starts in E minor, and the next song is probably gonna be in E minor as well. But more than just the needs of the song itself are the needs of the live performance versions of the song. I wanted a song that could include things that have things like hey, hey, or extended breakdowns where I could speak to the audience and introduce the band. So I have to think of it both as an album opener and as a live show opener and make sure that there's room in there for that audience participation. So we started with I want to write a song, which is a very open thing. There's so many ways you could go from there. And we've brought it down, we've limited it. We brought it down, and now I want to write a song within these parameters. And having those limits, that's where the magic begins, because limits inspire creativity. Say it with me. Limits inspire creativity. That's exactly how I feel. So now that we're ready to create, let's create. Part 4, recycle, reduce, and reuse. I'm going to attempt to show you on this acoustic guitar how the riffs from all of those, from the demo of my voice to intro and outro, how they all work together to create the Lone Wolf's intro. So for intro from Only a Dream, that starts with 2 hits on the E, and then the guitar response to that call is, okay, it's just going from F to E. And then the second time through, I missed it, but it goes up to this G here. So we got it. All right, so there's already, it's really riffy. It's really heavy on the riffs. Low hits is the call, and the response is riffy, riffy, riffy on the 4th string. So let's play it all together. Okay, pretty fun. Now let's take a look at outro. Similar concept, 2 hits, but now the rhythm changes. And this one, I think it even goes. And having those pull-offs, right? I'm striking the string once, but I'm pulling off. That's where we start to see the Lone Wolf coming in. So once again, hits, and then it's starting to take its shape. Now we go back to the vocal demo where I started with da 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 da. I just took the first 3 hits. Ba da ba. So instead of 2 hits, it's now 3 hits. Ba da ba. And then it turns into. So I kept the 3 hits, and then the response is very riffy again. That's where those pull-offs come in. Turned into. All right, so you see how it's kind of a similar vibe. So once we have the main riff, obviously if I continue to play that over and over and over, the people are going to get bored with it. They're not going to want to listen to it anymore. So we got to change it up a little bit. So I then go from a riffy part to something lower, chunkier, heavier. How can we do a variation on this riff to make it feel thicker and lower? So you could just take the riff and just bring it down an octave. Something like that, but it feels very copy-paste. It's not very interesting. Okay, but I do like the palm muting of it. So what if we changed the rhythm just a little bit? We have the same hits in the beginning, but then we change the rhythm to have palm mute, open, palm mute, open. Let's see what that sounds like. That's okay, but these G's sound a little bit high. So I drop them down. Let's make them all E's. Okay, it's getting a little bit better, but it feels very flat. It's not really going anywhere. Now, if we look at the key of E minor, we have the following notes. So if we're not using the G, because that's a little too high, the next one down is F sharp. But that doesn't sound quite right either. It doesn't sound quite right because it's also featuring this C sharp, and C sharp is not in the scale. So it'd have to be a tritone maybe? It's a really awkward note here. And that didn't feel right either. Fun fact, you can break the scale. You don't have to follow the scale all the way through. By adding this low F, it's not technically in the scale, but the C here is, the 5 chord here, that is there. So it's still kind of in the scale a little tiny bit, and it's low enough, it's almost an E, but it resolves down to E, but it's got this thick, it gives us this flat 2 sort of Phrygian mode vibe. Very metal. Sometimes these things come to you naturally. They just appear in your mind and you're like, I know what needs to come next because I can just feel it. The song is telling you what it wants from you. Other times these riffs can sit with you for years and years and years and you can get really frustrated not knowing what to do. Again, don't rush it.
You can't rush art.
Take your time with it. Sometimes it helps to write this stuff out. Maybe you don't have a tabbing software like Guitar Pro, or maybe you can't record with Pro Tools or GarageBand, but you can always write it down on paper. Get yourself familiar with music theory and, more importantly, rhythm theory, and then you can actually see it in the way that it works with itself. Another really helpful thing to do is record yourself. Just record yourself on your phone. It doesn't have to be a good recording. You're not putting it out. You're not submitting this to some talent agency. You're just recording it for yourself. You record it on your phone, press play on your phone, and then play along with it. See if you can figure out a harmony. See if you can figure out a rhythm track to go underneath it. And play it in your head while you're walking around. Just anticipate, where would it go next? And sometimes, eventually, it comes to you. Now, just listening to this main riff and these first 2 riffs, I guess, I can already tell who the influences are. I wonder if you can guess. I'll give you 5 seconds to guess who you think the influences for this song are. Ready? Here they are. Godsmack and Breaking Benjamin. Those are the 2 that's coming to me. There's a little bit of Godsmack in the chorus and some of the da-na-na-na. That was because you know what I'm talking about when I say da-na-na-na. But there's a little Godsmack in the chorus. But Breaking Benjamin, I really, really like their record, Dear Agony. And there's something that they do really well in a lot of their songs, actually, is they have this big, heavy, thick intro. And then the verse drops down and it's somehow light and heavy at the same time. How do they do that? They have big booming toms, right? The drumming is really cool, really driving drums, and then that bass sound of really thick bass, really thick drums, but almost no guitars whatsoever. If there are guitars, they're either clean or heavily affected with reverb, modulations of some sort, delay. They're just different. They're far away. That lets the vocals really shine. And I wanted to capture that in this song. Before I had anything else, I knew that I had a big intro. I wanted my vocals to shine, even though I didn't have any lyrics yet. And I knew that Breaking Benjamin was an influence of the song. So I'm just following their similar formula. Big, heavy intro, smaller verse, big chorus, and repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Recycle, reduce, reuse. It's okay. It's not theft. It's just inspiration. Part 5, lyrics. Let's take a little look at the rough draft lyrics document here. We have August 31st, 2017. I was apparently on a plane. It says Detroit to MSP, and the title is already made, The Lone Wolf with some angry eyes, and then I called it Brainstorm on a Plane with an arrow more like Plainstorm. The first thing that I wanted to do with this was actually just come up with a long list of vocab words. So I started with appearance. What do wolves have? So they have ears, they have eyes, they have a nose, teeth, claws, body, etc. But what are some words that relate to each one of those forms? So with ears, they point them up when they're normal. They fold them back when they're angry or they're attacking. What about their eyes? Glare, pierce, stoic, Reflection in the water. Are they yellow? These are all words I could use to allude to eyes of a wolf, right? What about their nose, the snout, scent? Wind carries scents, right? With a wolf, the wind, they get their scents from the wind. I did this for every part of their appearance, and then I went into their habits and other vocab words like hunting, pack, alpha, big dog, den, cub, forest, prey. I went through and I just listed everything. What about location? Forest, tundra, night, wild, unknown, danger, lightning, fire, flame. I guess they don't have lightning, fire, and flame, but those are things that happen in the wild. So I'm just gathering all of the words. And then lastly, metaphors. What kind of things am I trying to depict with this song? Being alone, being cast out, being by myself, solo, standing tall, prove myself. That's a reference to an old song that never got released. Resisting failure, enduring, fight, struggle, win. You'll see. I wanted to really tell people, you'll see what happens when I get to rise above to my full potential. So now I have a big, large list of things that I can draw from when I choose to finally start writing this song. Now, we already know that I have the demo. I already played the demo for you. I have a couple words already, so there is a little bit already planned out. But if you look at this list, you can start to see some of the words that were used in the song. Endure, the strength to endure, the will to survive, the chill in the air, right? All of these things show up in the final song. So this is really helpful for me to create this sort of mind map. It doesn't maybe look like the mind map you might use, but it helps me to write all this down. On the other side of this document, you'll see that it took me an entire month, almost an entire month, maybe half month, to really come up with anything further. I went on another trip, 9/19/17, that's September 19th, and I was going from Denver International to MSP, so I called this Plainstorm number 2. Here is where I take all of the things that I had currently and I just write them down. I call this nonsense lyrics. These are the lyrics that came to my head from the onset, from the very beginning of the idea, and they kind of, as I was writing the music, as I was kind of interpreting what the sounds would be in my head, I wanted to put those nonsense lyrics down on the page so I would be able to have some sort of a comparison, so I could see the rhythm and the flow of how the words come out naturally and see if maybe I can tweak that a little. So you see, into the night, forever alone, cast out by everything that I know. That is almost exactly as it is in the final result. The only difference is that it's into the wild, abandoned alone. So it's very, very similar. I have a little dash here because that means there's more to come. And then I wrote say something with an ellipses and some question marks because I knew it was going to be say something. Da, 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 da. I knew it was going to have that sort of sound, but I didn't know what it was going to say. So I just knew it was going to be say something. I wrote say something. Now that isn't what it ended up being in the end, but again, these are nonsense lyrics. We're just writing things out as they come. So then my nonsense chorus was, I guess I'm going to do it by myself this time and walk away standing tall. You'll see that the fire's still alive and it will consume us all. So I guess at this point, I didn't really know what my hook was going to be. The fire's going to consume us all. Is that a threat? Am I threatening you? I don't know. But it didn't really, to me, obviously that line didn't stay. But it was important to have that set there in the nonsense lyrics so I knew where I was starting from. Now that I have some nonsense lyrics and a bunch of vocab words, is where I start crafting the story. I already had my layout for the song. First verse, chorus, second verse, chorus, and then a bridge. I knew that was the structure for the story. So how do we structure that out? In the first verse, we're going to talk about being rejected, starting the story, setting the scene about being cast out, realizing there's nothing left to try that can bring me back to whatever I've been cast out from, right? This lone wolf has been cast out from the pack, and there's nothing more that can be done to bring them back. So that first verse is the realization that something has gone wrong. I'm cast out. This sucks. But the chorus is, all right, fine. I'll do it better on my own, right? I can survive on my own. The second verse, now that we know I can survive on my own, now I'm working on the plan of attack. My will to survive. You see that underline, that stayed in the song. Will to survive. I am strong and capable. The second verse is meant to evoke that emotion. We know now that we've been cast out. We know that I'm going to try to do it myself. And now this is me hyping myself up. This is what I'm going to do. And then when we get to the bridge section, it is all about the success, the coming around, the finale, the end of this story. And it ends with an eat my dust, see you at the top. There's one last bit in here that I wrote other, howl. Something for the crowd. I have always wanted to add some sort of a howl into the song just to kind of give the audience something to do. Now, that didn't end up in the final product, but it does come to whenever we play this song live. I do ask the crowd to howl, and they oblige. So it's very, very fun. I think the last thing to note about this first page is the test lines underneath the story. Now that I have my vocab words, I have my story planned out, I'm now testing it out to the rhythm of the song. Now, the rhythm is all internal. I have my nonsense lyrics, so I kind of have it on the page as well, but the rhythm has already been decided in my head, so I already have the structure. Now, the test lines, it looks like this is very close to what the real final version is. Into the wild, abandoned alone, cast out by everything that I know. The chill of the night, forever my home. By light of the moon, I stand on my own. That's pretty much all as it is. Say you'll be there as you hold me down. Lead me to water where you'll watch me drown. Or it says leave me drown on this paper, but I think in the final song, if I'm not mistaken, it's just to watch me drown. And I think that's an interesting new version of it's saying the same thing, but it had just to watch me, like it's putting on this person, it's making them more villainous, right? Lead me to water where you'll watch me drown almost sounds like I'm giving them permission, but lead me to water just to watch me drown makes it sound more vindictive. It makes it sound planned. It makes it feel like they are actively trying to suppress me, and I think that's a much better fix there. And then ending with I don't need you anymore. And then the chorus is mostly as it is, but you'll see the final line here, and to my feet you'll crawl. I still didn't know quite what I was going to do with this section of the song, but you can see it kind of starting to seed in. It eventually became I will never fall, which is me hyping myself up, saying I can do this. Let's take a look at the second page, the back side. This is the other side. I think this is still from Plainstorm 2, but I can't really tell because I didn't date this side. But you can see that I'm starting to experiment with verse 2. I had a very proud verse 1. This happens a lot. I get a really nice verse 1, and then what do? So I had my story. I had my will to survive, whatever it takes. I'll bend over backwards, but I'll never break. That's where I started, right? And you can already see that in the actual end result song, that will to survive became the second line so that it would be the rhyming word. It would be the B to the A-B rhyme scheme. So I started thinking a will to survive would start that second verse. And then you can see me experimenting with other lines. Weather the storms by the full moon's light. Endure, scent of the blank, blank, blank. Shelter yourself before the storm begins. I'll weather the rain. And I will ride the wind. You can see that's all scribbled out. That wasn't maybe the best idea. Casting my shadows. Chaos the feed for this eternal vow. I'm taking the lead. No one can stop me now. Now, there it is. There it is. That ended up being the final second half of the second verse. But you can see I'm just kind of experimenting. And then I thought, because whatever it takes was going to be the rhyming word, I'll never break, I went over to here where you see ache rhymes. And I'm starting to come up with words that rhyme with ache, with takes or break, right? And I'm writing those out. And then I'm writing these other words. Storm. What rhymes with storm? What rhymes with bite? What rhymes with endure? And I'm just going through rhyming words and trying to just brainstorm what are words that feel like they would be good end point words, because you want a good solid finale, an end point, right? The rhyming word, you're setting up a word that is going to have a payoff. And so what's the payoff word? And that's what I was looking for here. The last part is when I started finally coming to that big bridge section, and I don't believe I had yet solved the rhythmic problems I was having. I knew it was in an odd time signature, but I couldn't quite figure it out. But I knew that it was going to be just more of a chanty style. It was going to be word, 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 right? Just power words. And so what are some action words? I wrote a list here: fight, fall, rise again. That's for the Metallica fans out there. Born to rise, down, claw, rage, storm, broken, beat down, born to rise, stalk, prowl, scavenge. There's some other references to my favorite band here, the final verse drafts, and a reminder that it's about eat my dust and see you at the top. So here's what I've got. I've become the night, darkness kill the light. I believe that's a reference to Metallica, if I'm not mistaken. Broken, beaten, born to rise. This is all just supposed to be powerful words. Downfall, old self dies, stand tall, born to rise, more than all that I've known. Take mine everywhere I roam. There's a lot of Metallica in this section. Fallout, breakdown, old self dies. That sounds a lot more like what it came to be. Feel the change deep down inside in parentheses. That's the call and response. That's the response part. Dust off, stand tall, born to rise. A lot of ideas here on the page, but you could see how this is all taking form. Part 6, The Lone Wolf. Now that you know the whole story behind the song, let's take a listen to it together. I've included the lyrics on the screen, so feel free to sing along, really belt it out, and see if you can find some spots in there to say hey, hey, or give some howls to the moon. Let's do this thing. Ready, go.
Strength to endure, the will to survive, releasing the beast I've held up inside. Chaos the feed for this eternal vow. I'm taking the lead, no one can stop me now. I don't need you anymore. Guess I'm gonna do it by myself this time and walk away standing tall. You'll see that my fire's still
So there it is. What do you think of the song? What's your favorite part? What's your favorite lyric? How did this process help you with your songwriting? I really sincerely hope it does, and I hope you consider some of these things when you're making your own tunes, and I hope you'll keep the conversation going down below with whatever you thought that you could take away from this video. And of course, I would appreciate you checking out my music. It's available wherever you get your music online. Somewhere in Dreamworld is the record to hear, but I'd appreciate the streams of March to Midnight as well. The archives, you can forget those. And of course, smash that subscribe button to come back here for more rock talk in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I love you. You're awesome. Have a great day.